that voice finally emerged with a creator called Sebbywebz. Watch
There he
remake
is.
content.
The handsome hero of the story shows up. Define grifter. Imagine telling that to someone who's been playing these games for like 30 years. It's just so unbelievably insulting. A lot of these fans, the way they write is as bloated as modern FF storytelling. Don't change the story. Well, you know, some of these people think that I played FF10 for the first time in 2024 because that's when I posted an ending video of it. Here's the thing, even my patience has limits. Yeah, so there's a YouTube video that is about me and how I changed the world of FF7 Remake discourse. Let's check it out.
Do you remember the old days when it was dangerous business to challenge the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Each time someone published a video, it was like slipping on the One Ring and drawing the Eye of Sauron, because the toxic remake fans would soon appear. I don't mean people who disagreed with us.
That is such an amazing metaphor, because it's true. You post anything critical of FF7 Remake or Rebirth anywhere on the internet, your own channel, and many in the fandom, they're just like, and they come riding to your location, you know? And they're just like, why would you come and ruin my day with this? It's true, man.
Sauron, because the toxic remake fans would soon appear. I don't mean people who disagreed with us. I mean the ones hell-bent on silencing any spaces where people could freely criticize the remake games. They'd arrive with their insults, obsessed, grifter, and of course, their abusive comments. Rather than
they don't know what the word grifter means, do they? Like, if I wanted to grift, I would say that 7 Remake Rebirth are amazing, the best things ever, and then I could then get sponsorships. I could then get free stuff, you know, maybe the Tifa statue where she's doing the splits on the Buster Sword, event invites, meet the devs. I will never get any of those things, and I don't want any of those things, all right? Like, none of that matters to me when the game is rubbish, in my opinion. In fact, the game being good is the only thing I care about. It's the only thing that matters. I think in this day and age, people just use grifter to mean someone I don't agree with. That's it. They don't know what it means. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's look up. Define grifter. A person who engages in petty or small-scale swindling. How does that apply to FF7 Remake Rebirth criticism at all? Like, do you think I don't actually hate it? I do. Look, if I didn't actually hate these games, then they need to give me multiple lifetime Oscars, all right? Because if you don't actually feel that way, you can't keep that up for like years straight. I've been pissed at Rebirth since bloody launch, all right? In fact, it's an effort for me to not talk about it. And also, the abuse they hurl is also a very important point. Notice how they don't really have any counter arguments. They just insult you. They just call you names. It's because they can't counter your arguments. It's because evidence is not on their side. And as for calling you obsessed, I mean, these are people who sit there on Twitter tweeting 24/7 about whether Cloud is banging Eris or Tifa, all right? That's obsessed. And they're wrong as well, because Rebirth confirmed that Cloud is banging Red 13. You know, we all saw the date scene. You know, he's banging the dog. So, as a proud Clannicky, I think it's unfair. They can't deny my ship, all right? I'm sick of us Clannickys getting denied. Hashtag Clannicky.
Insults, obsessed, grifter, and of course, their abusive comments. Rather than ignoring a video that clearly wasn't meant for them, each upload became a bat signal for the deranged. With remakes...
It's true, it's like the One Ring. They all say, oh, if you don't like it, don't play it. You know, it's like, well, if you don't like my videos, don't watch them. They can't even follow their own logic. They can't even practice what they preach.
With Remake's loud and faithful fanbase and its own personal band of Nazgul hunting down anyone critical, it was so easy for creators like me and like-minded fans to get washed away in the noise. Most people critical of Remake, although united in their opinions, weren't united under a cause. They had no product to deify, and there was nothing like the pro-Remake fans had, a figurehead in Maximilian Doom.
They had no product to deify. I wouldn't deify E33, but E33 did change everything. There's a reason that when that game dropped, I then started dropping criticism of 7 Rebirth and Modern FF, because to argue against Modern FF in the past was a bit harder because there was nothing to compare it with. It had no competition. Like, name me the AAA realistic 3D turn-based JRPG that was a rival to that. There is none. So when you're arguing against a lot of Modern FF 7 Remake stuff, a lot of it was hypothetical. A lot of it was theoretical. If it did this, then this and stuff. E33 came out and just completely destroyed that. It destroyed all the old arguments. It nuked them, to be honest. And a lot of modern FF fans haven't actually realized that yet. But it's all right. They will in time.
Deify, and there was nothing like the pro remake fans had, a figurehead in Maximilian Dude, who they felt represented most of their feelings, and whose backstory of inspiring Square Enix and receiving the word of God from developers before returning to the fandom was akin to Moses coming down from the mountain with the stone tablets. And with content creators of that status, with such a wave of enthusiastic remake support online, it almost gave the impression to the untrained eye that the only people critical of the game sat in a tiny minority, a bunch of 6 or 7 old nerds who couldn't handle new things. But
the funny thing is, right, he's right, to the untrained eye. And from an outside perspective, if you're a complete newcomer, you see the ratings for Rebirth, you know, it's like, well, I don't know, you know, the reviewers seem to love it, the people who played it seem to love it, but what they don't see is the abysmal sales of Rebirth. The sales of Rebirth tell the true story. The people who bought that game, they were already in for the fan fiction, multiverse, sneakquel aspect of it, and they still seem to like it, whereas a lot of people were turned off by some things in Remake, and when they found out the truth about that, they're like, I'm out. It's like if you went to a furry convention, for example. You know, if you asked the furries who went there, did you have a fun time? 9 out of 10 might say yes. They might have enjoyed the furry convention. But does that now mean that furry conventions are this popular mainstream thing that everyone loves? No, they're niche, like Rebirth.
Everyone's a winner.
minority, a bunch of 6 or 7 old nerds who couldn't handle new things. But the truth was, remake fans had theory crafting for what might be, while everyone else had the cold hard reality of the here and now, and sticking around to chat about a game they didn't enjoy seemed like a waste of time. Many moved on to other games and other social circles. They had their love of Final Fantasy VII reawakened by the news of a remake, played the game in 2020, and then shuffled away, confused, never to play Rebirth. Yeah, these people do exist. They walk among us, and you may be surprised how many there are, because it was only a percentage of us who stayed online to discuss it. We're the ones who...
Well, to give an example of how many there are, I had 13,000 YouTube subs when I first started posting Exhibition 33 and also critical 7 Remake Rebirth content. I now have 136,000 subs in about 9 months. That's how many there are. And it's only going to keep going up because I got a lot more content in the works. And there's, yes, now and again, I get a comment saying, you know, used to like your E33 stuff, but I can't stand the Remake Rebirth slander. I am leaving. I need you to know that I am unsubbing and you will never see me again. I get that now and again, you know, and I'm sorry about that. But the overall number, it just keeps going up and up and up. And you know, like, there's a silent majority, and sometimes they leave me a comment just being like, look, I don't want to argue with these psychopaths, but I agree. So thank you. And if you're one of those people, you all right.
Many there are, because it was only a percentage of us who stayed online to discuss it. We're the ones who hung around trying to figure out our feelings, to debate.
There was only a percentage of us who stayed online to discuss it. I mean, I'll tell you, most OG fans, most normal people, they're not living on Twitter 24/7 shipping Clannicky like me. Most OG fans, most normal people, they're not living on Twitter just posting about how much they want to bang Cloud, Eris, or Red 13. All right, they're out doing other things. You know, the fact that I can get any traction at all on platforms like Twitter is insane. It's almost like that's the power of the truth. Because I'll tell you what, Twitter, that is the Mordor. It's like Soydor. And every time I make a tweet, it's like being Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, being like, for FF7. And then just running head first into an army of screaming soy orcs. All right, so as I say, it's a miracle that anyone on some of these platforms even supports me at all, because that's not where the OGs are.
In comment sections, or to try to remind people what the original game had actually said. And then you had oddballs like me, who made videos about it for all of 5 years. I was a small fry nuisance for toxic remake fans, yet they drew some comfort from the fact that I sat in a dark corner of the internet where no plants ever grew. But what would happen when a voice emerged that quickly became too big to silence? How would remake fans respond? Well,
there he is, folks. The handsome hero of the story himself, showing up to save the bloody day. Hey, same shirt as well.
That quickly became too big to silence. How would remake fans respond? Well, more on that soon. Since the very beginning, toxic remake fans had a particular strategy for OG purists like us. They'd tell us to stop being negative, stop complaining, which was a bizarre thing to say to people who had a vested interest in Final Fantasy, who obviously cared enough to speak out. We're fans of the OG. We have formative memories involving the PS1 classic. Just because we had criticisms of how Square Enix chose to remake it, and we didn't want to sugarcoat how we felt, we had to stop talking? Well, what if I got enjoyment out of talking about the issues? What if through sharing my opinions, I met lots of interesting people I never would have met, like-minded OG fans and even remake fans who shared what they were enjoying about the new games? What if people commented on my videos sharing how good it felt to have someone discuss their feelings openly and now felt like they had a place they could share their own without getting blasted?
It is really nice, that my channel has built a community around people who feel a bit, is disenfranchised the right word? Let down, disappointed, misled, deceived, lied to, bullied about all the shenanigans. I appreciate you guys a lot. And I got a lot of respect for Orion85 because he did this before E33 dropped. He did this when Rebirth dropped, and Rebirth launch was the height of Gaslight Central. That was the height of the storm. It was brutal, man. Oh, God, it was so annoying. I couldn't even hop into a stream, just say hello, because, people were like, oh my God, Sebie, you love FF7. Did you like Rebirth? And I would have to be like, no, I didn't like it. And they'd be like, they would react like I'd popped all their birthday balloons. And it's just like, oh God, so annoying. So when they say stop being negative, stop complaining, they will say this about the most minor criticism ever, the most legitimate criticism ever. And I'll tell you what, because these people have shielded Square and 7 Rebirth from criticism for so long, Hamaguchi has come out and said that he thinks that Rebirth is well-paced. Quote, well-paced. No, that's bad. That's a result of this insulation. As long as the fandom keeps doing this, modern Square devs cannot figure out what they're doing wrong, even if they try. They can't. And now part 3 is probably going to be as bloated as Rebirth, when it should be more streamlined. Rebirth would have been a lot better if a lot of those mini games were actually all just packed into Gold Saucer, and Gold Saucer was minigame central.
Things openly and now felt like they had a place they could share their own without getting blasted. But certain remake fans would rather all that go away just to control the discussion. Well, they don't control it as much as they want to. When we insisted on sharing our opinions, they'd tell us we were obsessed. A hilarious thing to say by people who equally endlessly comment on the game and seek out any video with Final Fantasy VII in the title, even critical ones. These people...
Yeah, I get these people in my comments. They constantly say they hate the Rebirth content. Well, why are you watching every single video about it? I think I make it very clear from the thumbnail what my opinion about this is going to be. You can tell from the short title what it's going to be about, but you seek them out anyway. Every single one. So I don't see them commenting on the videos that are not about remake or rebirth, and if they want to see them, let's be generous and say I've made 200. That's still 1,600 videos I've made that have absolutely nothing to do with FF7 Remake or Rebirth. The thing is, those are the only videos they're gonna watch.
Out any video with Final Fantasy VII in the title, even critical ones. These people projected onto us. They told us we were bitter that others were enjoying Remake while we were suffering in disappointment. On the contrary, we were fine with you liking it. That had no bearing on us. Yeah. We just wanted to voice our disappointment without someone getting mad at us, because that's all that ever happened from day one. You're a purist, a fake fan. You didn't understand it. When all along the...
Oh, fake fan is such a bullshit one. It's like, imagine telling that to someone who's been playing these games for like 20 years, like 30 years. It's just so unbelievably insulting. They dismiss your life experience. Didn't understand it? No. It's very clear what's going on. You thought it was a remake, but it turns out to be a sequel, like a remakequel, a multiverse, fan fiction, Marvel madness, Kingdom Hearts adventure, and it's like, yeah, well, no one wanted that. And the sales confirm it. The purist argument is bullshit because it's totally possible to expand upon this source material authentically. If you're gonna change things, but you make it better, people are usually fine with that, or you make it as good. If you look at The Warriors, the PS2 game, if you look at Scarface, the video game, they then, from what I've seen at least, expand upon what those movies did, but they do so in a way that feels authentic. Those games are really well received. A lot of people really liked that. In fact, those games are a great blueprint on how to expand upon a pre-existing thing and still have it feel authentic. That is not what we got with Remake and Rebirth, and everyone knows it. A lot of people were even open to the idea of this fixed-angled, turn-based game now being free cam with action combat, but as soon as the whispers showed up and the timeline changing and all this bullshit, a lot of people, like, noped out. You'll see those comments everywhere. They're like, no, I like the combat and I like moving the camera and stuff, but the fake ghosts? No. In fact, the whispers might be Square's worst idea ever, and there's some stiff competition for that title.
When all along the most rational response to a fan trying to process a mind-boggling meta remake of the game they loved would be, yeah, I get why you'd feel that way, or even, no, I can't agree with that. Instead, well, you know what we got, and you know where we were told to go, to Max Dude, the arbiter of fate, who, remake fans assured us, had single-handedly connected all the dots and now held the keys to our remake re-education.
You know what's funny is that in a way I'm more of an arbiter of fate because I'm the one trying to keep the timeline the same. I said this in my video where I was shot by shot comparing the ending of 7 Remake with the OG. It's like, if the fate whispers are meant to represent the OG fans trying to keep the timeline the same, then I'm that, okay? I'm the arbiter. I'm like the biggest fate whisperer of all, just being like, no, don't change the story.
Connected all the dots and now held the keys to our remake re-education. Oh, we remember those days. If we rejected the hype, they told us to leave the community, and if we want to talk about remake, do it someplace else, because our criticisms were ruining their enjoyment. But then if we made social media posts or even videos about it to try connect with like-minded voices, they said we're rage baiting, a grifter after money and clicks. A hilarious thing to say to genuine Final Fantasy fans of all people.
Rage bait would imply that 1, I don't mean what I say, and 2, I'm not actually angry about it. Believe me, I'm both.
Well, they certainly can't say I'm not a Final Fantasy fan. I've got multiple videos praising the Golden Age, and at least I'm consistent with my disappointment with the modern games, which
This is a video you guys should check out and that I need to actually watch and react to myself. The Multiverse of Meh, which came out on Rebirth launch. And this has about 100,000 views. This shows that there absolutely is an audience who are very critical of Rebirth and Remake and upset with it. And huge respect to Orion85 because he's part of the old guard. He's been here long before I ever showed up.
And at least I'm consistent with my disappointment with the modern games, which extends to 16 by the way. And each time I criticize the modern entries, I try to explain why the older games work and why I still love them so much. You may not agree with my opinions, but I think it's clear to anyone approaching in good faith that I'm being honest. Yet, within the fandom, some had labelled me a toxic entity, but the only so-called toxic content fans could find were the 2 videos where I called out the toxic remake and Square Enix fandom. Some people pointed to those videos like I was tarring all fans who simply wanted to enjoy the games, when really those videos were a response to abuse I had received. They were videos about a specific mindset and the odious practices employed by some fans.
This is true. I mean, basically they say, how dare you hit back? When the FF7 part of Twitter was all dogpiling on me, I remember people complaining that I was responding to abusive comments in a funny way. Am I supposed to get upset? Am I supposed to get emotional? Am I supposed to get really sad? Like, no, I responded with like, you reckon you're pretty tough, don't you? Or like the Red 13 giggling fart face, like... They were criticizing me for having a sense of humor. It's ridiculous.
Practices that had led some channels to make a silent agreement never to cover Remake for fear of its fan base.
Okay.
So, in short, yeah, if you wanted to identify into those videos, be my guest. So anyway, there was a little old me making videos to the point where, yeah, people...
Wow, what a fake fan. Clearly never played the OG. This guy doesn't even like Final Fantasy. Sorry, I'm just role-playing, but that's unironically what these people say. Play this for like 30 years. Like, what more do you want from me?
So anyway, there was a little old me making videos to the point where, yeah, people called me obsessed and a grifter. I had a couple videos that seemed to reach further than my normal, but all in all, I was a small-time, inconvenient nuisance. Why am I saying all this? Merely to demonstrate the disorganized quiet that appeared to be the anti-remake fans, a scattered bunch of content and opinions hidden in corners, not at all representative of what was actually a largely held opinion, even if that large opinion existed offline or in non-Final Fantasy circles. But all along I wondered what would happen when someone big enough appeared who was critical of the remake games. Someone who knew how to YouTube, someone who could go beyond niche parts of the fandom and reach mainstream audiences too. Someone with a growing voice who wasn't afraid to make it louder.
Seems like a pretty cool guy to me.
Not just in one video out of 100, but I mean someone who would consistently talk about the issues of remake and rebirth.
That's it. Not just one video out of 100, but hundreds of videos. I'd say if I had to count, maybe roughly, is it at 100 or 200? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should count one day. It could look pretty funny.
100, but I mean someone who would consistently talk about the issues of remake and rebirth. And in 2025, that voice finally emerged with a creator called Sebbywebz.
The handsome hero of the story shows up. I love that he uses this screen cap. This is when I was talking about how Sid Highwind and Vincent were not playable in Rebirth. And yet this unbelievably stupid comment. They already added 3 new characters in Rebirth. Are you dumb? They're saving Sid and Vincent for the 3rd game. I think this guy also said that he wouldn't have bought part 3 if they didn't have any new characters. Like, what are you talking about?
With a creator called Sebbywebz. If you watch remake content and you somehow haven't seen his videos yet, he's a streamer who's grown off the back of his Expedition 33 videos and then his latest criticisms of remake and rebirth through many shorts and videos and shot-by-shot comparisons. Some criticised him of rage baiting, arguing that he's not a Final Fantasy fan. Not that this would even matter to have an opinion on remake or rebirth's quality, but it took me 5 seconds of research to see that A, he's been consistent. Here he is back in 2024, long before he blew up, reacting to the rebirth scene.
Did you know, I thought I'd played FF7, but according to Twitter, I haven't. Did you know I'm a fake fan who's never played the OG? And those of you who've been in my stream who also saw me do Rebirth live, you know for a fact I didn't like this. And the sad thing is, I tried to enjoy Rebirth. You can watch my VODs and you can see I tried to enjoy Rebirth from the start. I tried to have a good time with it. I was trying to be open-minded, but it just kept kicking me in the balls. And after the 50th kick, I realized it wasn't getting any better. In fact, you can see the moment I break, which is after the Gold Saucer dance number, where Yuffie, Tifa, and Eris do a choreographed dance just out of the blue, join the main performance. Yuffie goons over Dio, and then you think you got the fresh moves. That was when I'm like, all right, okay, I think I've run out of patience with this thing. What is the fucking lore explanation for that? What, the writers needed that to happen? They wanted that scene to happen? Why the fuck did any of that happen? Explain to me that in the video game. Why? Fuck, that was the most polished turd I've ever seen in my entire life. That was the most expensive pile of shit I've ever seen. That adds nothing to the game. That adds nothing. That's, oh my god. That sucks, man. That was trash. That was fucking shit. Okay.
This is not a flash in the pan thing he suddenly jumped on in 2025. You can see he has a vested interest. You can see he cares. And B, not that he ever needs to demonstrate it, but he's also a fan of other Final Fantasy games and JRPGs. Of course, that was never...
Well, apparently I'm not. Someone on Twitter is arguing that I'm a fake fan because I didn't master the combat system of FF16. There is no pleasing these people. Even if I did, they would just say, oh, you clearly never played it, because if you did, you love it. They would just say, oh, if you hated it, why'd you master it? You know what I mean? There's no making these people happy. Let's say you've watched Lord of the Rings 5 times. To these people, you still don't like it. A real fan would have memorized every single detail from every single scene and be able to paint it perfectly from memory, according to these people. Fake fan is one of the most bullshit arguments in their disposal, and it doesn't work, really.
But he's also a fan of other Final Fantasy games and JRPGs. Of course, that was never the problem. The real problem was Sebie had joined the ranks of inconvenient nuisances, talking about the remake games. But he soon became a new kind of problem, growing at an accelerated rate. As soon as he appeared on X, and for the first time in recorded history, we witnessed a prominent blue tick suddenly talking about the issues of remake rather than praising its virtue, the entire remake fandom entered panic mode. And Sebie received the usual reaction I talked about earlier, just on a much bigger scale.
You know what the funny thing is? All it took to trigger the biggest meltdown in the history of the FF7 section of Twitter was 3 tweets. And I cover those in the video I made about this. It was this one ripping on the singing lady. Shut up!
Just listen.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop! It was the one ripping on Rude's bald bar, where I did a shot by shot. And I think it was maybe the one shredding Red 13's voice.
Oh, don't say that. You're only making this harder.
3 tweets, and it caused the biggest meltdown that has ever been seen on that platform in the 7 Remake community. I think I know why that might be, because my first reaction was like, how did you guys not know? Like, I've been posting shorts criticizing this on TikTok, Insta, and YouTube for like 6 months. But the thing is, maybe I think I was spacing those apart. I was also like finding out like the best arguments as I was going along. I was like refining my arguments along the way. So for those people, maybe it was a slow burn. With Twitter, on the other hand, I think everyone was excited for part 3. And then I came out of the blue with 3 tweets in one day that just snowballed absolutely cataclysmically. And I think they weren't ready for such refined high-level kill shots because it nukes their brains.
Rather than praising its virtue, the entire remake fandom entered panic mode. And Sebie received the usual reaction I talked about earlier, just on a much bigger scale. The remake fans couldn't handle it, because the narrative was changing. All those people who were on the fence about the remake were suddenly entertained or enlightened enough to start falling on the Square Enix got it wrong side, or feeling brave enough at last to voice their true feelings. Or even mainstream gamers with little knowledge of the series were suddenly watching the content and laughing alongside Sebie.
That's a really important point, and it's something I like to see a lot, is I get comments from people saying that like they've thought this for the last 20 years and someone's finally saying it. People have said similar things to me in the past, but for whatever reason, my content seems to hit really strong and go far with that. Another thing that's important is that it actually can change people's minds. Like normal gamers, average people, they look at the shot-by-shot comparisons and they're like, wow, yeah, that is worse. Or they'll say, well, I mean, I like both versions, but you cannot say they're the same. And that was what my content did that changed the conversation. And it was actually a friend of mine who pointed this out. The shot-by-shots were a great way for an outsider to understand the problems. And I do like it when I see someone in the comments say that through watching my content, they feel a bit more empowered to speak their mind and be critical of this. The argument that you haven't played the game is insane denial, Shitash. Yeah, I mean, well, nothing's good enough for these people. You know, some of these people think that I played FF10 for the first time in 2024 because that's when I posted an ending video of it. No. That's me posting an ending video of my second playthrough on Twitch. I played that game on launch in 2001. Then I played it again in 2011. Then I played it twice on stream. Like, do I have video footage of me at age 14 playing on my PS2? No, because I never thought that one day I might have to prove I did. And you shouldn't have to. It's outrageous that some of these people would demand video evidence of you playing these games when you were 10 in the 90s. Outrageous. I would never demand that from them. Someone says they played a game, I'll believe them. Why would they lie? The whole you didn't play the OG is an infuriating non-argument, and I don't think that even they believe it. In a way, that's the worst part. Not that they're lying to me and everyone else, but they're lying to themselves. They know you played the OG, but they're just saying whatever it takes to shut down the argument, because they know that these games cannot stand up to real criticism. If they could, then one guy like me would not have been able to make 3 tweets and cause one of the biggest meltdowns in that community on Twitter. I would not be able to do that for Dark Souls, for Baldur's Gate 3, for Risk of Rain 2, Dave the Diver, E33. I wouldn't be able to do that because they're actually good. They are self-evidently good. Whereas these games can only be good in a vacuum, in a gaslight culture.
Knowledge of the series were suddenly watching the content and laughing alongside Sebie. They were laughing at Remake and Rebirth, and that was slowly twisting the souls of Remake fans and content creators. Obsessed, grifter, all of the usual nonsense. Now, Sebie seems fully equipped to take care of himself.
I didn't know you could get monetized on Twitter until these people kept reminding me. And eventually I checked and I was like, oh, I've eventually become eligible. So thanks for letting me know, guys. I was just doing it for free.
Usual nonsense. Now, Sebie seems fully equipped to take care of himself, but I have to be honest, watching toxic fans throw out the usual insults brought it all back to me, how they've treated you and I over the years. And it was the impetus for making this video, which I suppose you could call the final part in my Toxic Fans trilogy. Someone big needed to take all that on the chin to get to the truth of the matter, to expose to mainstream audiences just how toxic some of these fans can be. I had long believed there was a silent mass of people without a voice, people that my weird little channel or other small creators could never reach, and all of a sudden, someone found them. To see Sebie open the door and summon a horde of spirits upon the remake community, well, it was one of those supernatural events we'll talk about for some time. The more
I took a lot on the chin, I can tell you that. While I've got a good sense of humor about it, it is not fun having thousands of people scream about what a terrible person you are. They were acting like career's over, this guy's cancelled now. They were wrong. Literally everything has continuously kept growing since then. It's insane the level of overreaction from them. Even my patience has limits. After about a week straight of people just hating you, eventually it's like, all right. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm gonna go for a walk now. I'm gonna go do something else. When they say no one's complaining, that's why I make 3 tweets ripping on just like stupid scenes from Rebirth, and these people want to destroy my career. They want to cancel me, they want to destroy my life. And then they have the audacity to say that, like, see, no one's complaining. You know, they will crush every voice they can, every voice of criticism they chase out, and then they have the audacity to say that everyone loves it. It's just unbelievable. They do treat this like a religion. They treat Square devs as their priests, and whatever they say, that's carved in stone. Let's say Square actually wanted to make Red 13 like, oh, hey guys, this is my real voice in 1997. If that's true, then to them, they have to like it. But they don't understand. I don't see Square devs as priests. I will say, well, that's a stupid idea. And we are lucky that it took until 2024 for us to finally see how stupid that idea is. I don't think that everything Sakaguchi touches turns to gold, but it is true that under him, Final Fantasy was great. And once he left, it's not anymore. Wasn't the voice of Red 13 in the movies and the old cutscene? Yeah, in Advent Children, Red speaks with a normal voice.
There are still children with the stigma.
In Rebirth, he's like, oh, hey guys!
Let's go.
Yeah, it's stupid. Even if that's what they wanted to do in 1997, it's a stupid idea.
community. Well, it was one of those supernatural events we'll talk about for some time. The more the remake defenders tried to battle with him, the more fuel they seemed to give him, and the more mainstream eyes watched it all unfold. All the toxic fans could do was label.
Just a second, I spilled some water on my shirt, so I'm just gonna... Might have to change that. Don't look at me. I'll be like, don't look at me. Actually, it'll look cool, because now I'll change shirt mid-video, and it'll look like I'm from a different universe. From the multiverse. Alright. Mom spaghetti.
The more the remake defenders tried to battle with him, the more fuel they seemed to give him, and the more mainstream eyes watched it all unfold. All the toxic fans could do was label him. They called the man a grifter. But surely he's hurting his own economic opportunities right now. Square Enix certainly ain't gonna come knocking looking for a Remake Part 3 endorsement. But I kinda get the feeling Sebie doesn't care immensely about these things, because to do so would start to entirely restrict him from what he wants to say, and content creation would soon become tedious. That seems pretty clear to me.
If Square offered me Remake Part 3, which they won't, but let's say hypothetically they do, I would say, no, I don't want that for free. I want to pay for it with my own money. That's how a normal gamer is going to experience it. If they give it to you for free, you're going to have the kid gloves on. You're going to feel bad about, I won't be able to go as hard on it as I need to be, if that's the case. I just think it's, I'm not interested. Second of all, I don't care about free shit. I don't care about sponsorships. The only thing that matters to me is that the game is good. If the game isn't good, what is the point of anything? What's the point of doing this? What's the point of being a streamer? What, playing a game you don't like? Trick your audience into buying a game that they won't like? Stupid.
And content creation would soon become tedious. That seems pretty clear to me, having observed his spontaneous energy. Yet people want to sweep aside his takes to suit their own headcanon. Of course, once these fans are forced to accept they're dealing with a genuine fan, they go after your character, your method, Apparently it's not what he says, it's the way that he says it. I guess because he's ridiculing Remake and Rebirth. That put many Remake fans on the defensive, because they'd never before had a creator on X of that size who was willing to take consistent jabs at Remake, and not only would those jabs not disappear into the ether, but they would be seen, reposted, and reach the mainstream audience. And so they had to reply. They had to go after him. In their desperation, they saw no other option. Things became so desperate in the Remake fandom that when a channel called Last Elixir Productions made a 40-minute video outlining why the original Barrett Dine scene worked and voiced some criticisms of Rebirth's version, many Remake fans and creators rallied round and praised it as a good critique, which it was. But what those fans were really saying was, it was the kind of critique that whispers softly in your ear and tucks you into bed at night, the kind of critique that picks one thing to criticise and doesn't go overboard and run the gauntlet of Rebirth's mistakes. Their comments, of course, not at all related to Sebie's critiques and style of delivery.
They absolutely were, because I remember when that video came out on Twitter, I remember seeing some of the content creators who had been very insulting towards me reposting that video and being like, now this is how you criticize a game, and all that. And I'll tell you what, I actually think that's pretty good what Last Elixir has done. That video seems to be doing quite well. It's a very different style from me. I mean, I think he handled it quite delicately, and from what I've heard, whereas I use the bull in the china shop Warhammer Orc method. Hey, it's fun for me. And it was interesting, during that time on Twitter, there were many people just defending Remake into the ether, never specifying who it was about, but I think we all knew. Nice someone made you into a video. No, I really appreciate this. This is a really good video, and it's a very good sort of document and timeline of the events of the entire thing. But most importantly, the part about me.
Their comments, of course, not at all related to Sebie's critiques and style of delivery, or even my own videos, or the other channels who had once thrown their hat into the ring. Because this approved kind of critique is the type you can get behind. Not the kind of critique that's said in a funny accent. Don't worry, Sebie, I meant me. Not the kind of critique...
No offense taken at all. No, I know my accent is like not American. All right.
Not the kind of critique positioned in a way that brings overly negative attention to the game. Nothing against the Last Elixir Productions, it's an excellent channel. My issue isn't with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, huge respect to these guys, because amongst the people who love Remake and Rebirth, this video was able to shift some of their opinions as well.
Appear to be largely a fan of the Remake games, while also being a big fan of the OG. That's cool, and I'm just using them to demonstrate that apparently it's okay to critique the game if you do it in a professional way. Lift the games up and softly tell them how they could improve, with gentle parenting, instead of pointing and laughing at them while doing a shot-by-shot comparison, or even, as I do, attacking some of the project's biggest sins. But the funny thing is, no matter how critiques are phrased or packaged, we're all very slowly getting to the same conclusions. Now it's okay to say that Barrett and Dine missed the mark. Even Max has given the thumbs up. So over here...
I've even had a debate with someone who was arguing that the Dine scene was as good, if not better. And it's just like, no. In fact, the Rebirth fans won't even be on your side with that anymore.
And all of a sudden this seems rational. Why can't you understand how other things could have missed the mark for us too? By you even daring to criticize Barrett and Dine, aren't you showing yourself to be a fake fan? Aren't you grifting? Yes, Barrett and Dine has become the safe thing to criticize.
Whoa, Mr. Criticizing Barrett and Dine over here. Okay, Mr. Purist. All right. I don't think you realized they wanted to ruin Dine in 1997, but they just couldn't due to hardware limitations. Mr. I've never played the OG. You see what I mean? Like, I'm role-playing here, but this is what it's like arguing with some of these lunatics.
Be a fake fan. Aren't you grifting? Yes, Barrett and Dine has become the safe thing to criticize, but there are many more things someone could talk about, and there are many more ways someone could talk about them. But another element to this, of course, is it's okay to make some criticisms if you're a friend of the community. It's not what you say, and it's not even what you know. It's who you know. Are you a friend of the family? Or have you been added to the content creator blacklist?
I think I'm definitely there. The fact that someone made a short about how their sleep paralysis demon is an insufferable OG Final Fantasy fan, and all the comments are just saying it's me. Guilty. The thing is, all they can threaten you with is a blacklist. Like, what? I'm not going to get free games from Square? Never did. Don't want them to begin with. I always want to buy the games that I stream and that I review, because if I get it for free, I can't be as critical of it as I want to be. I just can't. It's just a fact. The sad reality is, and it's not for everyone, but there's many modern Final Fantasy content creators who need sponsorships to survive, and they want to get legitimized by, I don't know, meeting the devs or getting backstage passes and all that. But the problem is, right, the reason that is because these games don't have mainstream appeal anymore. If they actually made these games in a way where the average gamer liked them, again, which they did during like FF7 to 10's period. By the way, if you didn't live through that time period, you don't know how it was. If these games were like huge again and the average gamer was loving it, then many of its content creators wouldn't need to treat these games with kid gloves. They wouldn't need sponsorships to survive. And if you are one of those content creators, I don't know, how much do you really care about this series? I would say have faith in your abilities, have faith in your skills, take the risk. Much more freedom, purpose, and happiness will come to you that way. The last thing I'll say before I continue, it's very annoying hearing 20-year-olds tell you how gaming really was back in 1997. I'm not saying that you can't have an opinion on that time period. You know, you can look it up, you can learn about it. It'd be like if I told someone who lived through the 1960s how it really was. I didn't know. I was born after that time period. I can watch all the documentaries in the world, I can read books on it, I can read articles, but I don't know what it was like to be there. And I would be fucking embarrassed. I would be ashamed of myself if I ever told someone who lived through the 60s how it really was and that their experience isn't legitimate. A lot of the 20-year-olds, they're not going to understand that, or they're not going to respect what I just said, but it's fine, because one day they'll be in their 30s and they'll have another generation of 20-year-olds telling them how things really were years after they were born. So it's all right, it'll happen.
Okay, when I introduce you, I'm gonna say, this is a friend of mine. That means you're a connected guy. Now, if I said instead, this is a friend of ours, that would mean you were a made guy. Like, capiche?
Yeah, friend of mine, friend of ours.
Yeah.
What do I call you, friend of ours? Or...
Keep your fucking mouth shut about me.
But who am I kidding, really? No matter who you are, you can only get away with criticizing the project for so long. Even a channel like Last Elixir Productions is one more critique away from becoming a hate channel, from ending up on the blacklist. Even after one video semi-critical of Rebirth, their comment section was soon populated by the usual basement dwellers. A taste of what awaits any channel who might dare to critique the remake project. Gotta say, I am disappointed. I thought you were a rational guy who was just strictly making videos explaining how the OG Final Fantasy VII was developed and wasn't blinded by nostalgia.
I want to read the rest of this. This new video has proved me wrong. So now I'm going to respond to you and all the nostalgia shilling comments below, bitching about the remakes by addressing how the original scene isn't as great as they remember. One thing you'll notice with FF7 Remake fan comments, yes, you'll get the usual ones just like yelling at you, angry at you, they're whatever, but you'll also get like these very calculated, cruel comments. You'll get ones that are, I would say, designed to demotivate you, to upset you. In fact, I would say the main method that many FF7 Remake fans use for shutting down criticism is to be as unpleasant towards you as possible. They want you to feel like the worst person in the world. They want you to feel like a terrible person. I don't see that with other fandoms as much. And maybe I don't know other fandoms nearly as well. I'm used to seeing a bit more like blunt to your face, almost like a more basic form of criticism, but I like that more. I'd rather be punched in the face than stabbed in the back.
By nostalgia. Look at that. I am disappointed. First, they want to let the channel know that they were enjoying the content before it dared to examine something that the OG did better. And now the channel is at risk of losing their support. How dare a channel criticize one aspect of the project? And then, in other words, I thought you were just strictly making videos about something I find acceptable, but now you've made something that challenges something I enjoy, and because you've done that, you're blinded by nostalgia.
The irony is that nostalgia is what's blinding these people from how truly bad and unfaithful these games and stories are. These games are carried by nostalgia, but you know, as we all know, they accuse you of what they are, they accuse you of what they're doing. Also, I hope Last Elixir is okay. There's a reason I don't ever try to appease what I consider to be the toxic side of the fandom, because, and I'll tell you what, every FF content creator has seen this firsthand. You can say and do everything right for 10 years straight, but you do one thing wrong, you say one thing wrong, and they will evaporate and disappear overnight. I'm not gonna say who, but those of us who have streamed and YouTubed Modern FF for a while can probably think of an example or two. Soon as you slip up, you are excommunicado.
This is how they choose to preface their argument of why the remake works better. Think about that defensive mindset, and you'll start to understand.
This is the other type of criticism you get from 7 Remake fans. Most of the time, most 7 Remake fans run on the same NPC script. Boomer, old, nostalgic, you never played the OG, it's not a remake, it's a sequel. You wanted a remaster, not a remake. It's 95% the same, but they also had to change everything or it would be boring. You know what I mean? They all run on the same NPC script. Sorry, not all, just most. On the rare occasions they do try to actually defend it or argue against your points, you get 5 pages of poorly worded TLDR, which makes excuses for this game and company that you would never make for any other game series or any other company. Do you know what an incredible observation is a friend of mine made? A lot of these fans, the way they write is as bloated as modern FF storytelling. And once they said that, I couldn't unsee it. Like, most of them I would say are FF14 players, and FF14 has the most bloated storytelling in the world. It has the most bloated writing in the world, excessively over-explaining, lore dumping, and when these people get angry at you, that's how they argue. You can't unsee this now. Chat, you actually can't unsee this. Their comments are as bloated as the games themselves. It's insane. So, another thing I would say is that, like, every now and again, you'll get someone who's like, I owned Sebie in the comments and he didn't respond. And it's like, one, I don't know who you are. 2, Vegas odds, you wrote something like this. And I just looked at it and was like, I'm not reading all that. Because life's too short. And then they declare themselves the winner. I'm sorry. I don't have time for this. It's a bunch of excuses you'd never make for anything else.
Think about that defensive mindset, and you'll start to understand what we've all had to put up with for years. Think how many minds have wilted under the pressure, and you'll understand why it's so interesting that a large voice has finally broken through. But whatever the power of the voice, whatever...
I don't know why, but for some reason, I have an absurdly high tolerance and patience for these people. I don't know why. For some reason, that's just like a natural trait. Maybe it's something to do with my upbringing, but I can also perfectly understand why normal people, as in people not me... by the way, when I talk about normal people, I don't include myself as one of them, all right? Why? Because I play Final Fantasy, okay? That excludes me from being a normal person for the rest of my life. But I can understand why normal people don't even want to engage with the insane section of this fan base at all, because it's like getting cancelled except you didn't do anything to deserve it. But the thing is, I already knew that. I knew that I'm not gonna get cancelled because I didn't like a video game. Jeez Louises.
That a large voice has finally broken through. But whatever the power of the voice, whatever way we say it, we criticize these modern games because we want the series to do better and to be better. When Expedition 33 captures the hearts of some Final Fantasy fans while managing to blow Rebirth and FF16 out of the water by finding a way to get closer to the spirit of Final Fantasy than anything Square Enix could manifest at this stage.
Isn't that so sad? It just looks like what modern Final Fantasy should be. And this is just Cloud sitting on a bench. And the tragedy of 16 is that no one loves it or hates enough to really care about it either way. So, and the fact that E33 in less than a year sold roughly double Rebirth and roughly double 16 kind of tells you everything you need to know.
The spirit of Final Fantasy than anything Square Enix could manifest at this stage. Fans attack that new game for being the threat that it is, for being the living proof that Final Fantasy only needed to walk back towards being Final Fantasy again. And that would have been enough to save the series.
A lot of modern FF fans hate E33 because for the ones who, for lack of a better term, have been on the wrong side of history for these last few decades, it shows how wrong they were. And it shows what insufferable, dishonest bullies they have been for 20 years. And this game just basically nuked it. The arguments and the lies and the bullshit and the gaslights they used to defend modern FF's appalling directions, they don't work anymore. They don't work anymore because of this game, and that's why they hate it. But the thing is, right, in spite of their attempts to destroy Clair Obscur, none of it worked. It just didn't, because Clair Obscur is self-evidently excellent. Whereas, as I say, modern FF can only work in a gaslight culture.
Towards being Final Fantasy again, and that would have been enough to save the series. When Square Enix's investors take the company to task over poor performance, fans rush to the corporation's defense, because what those fans want...
Is that a real photo? I can't tell if that's a real photo with the Square Enix t-shirt. Is this a real guy, or is this like AI, or is it photoshopped onto his show? Because if it is, that is so funny, man. That is so funny. I imagine this is what someone who hates me looks like when they see a new short.
Corporation's defense, because what those fans want is not a return to Final Fantasy, to series creator Sakaguchi's design and philosophy. They're looking for something else. When Square Enix themselves revealed sales didn't meet their expectations, fans called them greedy, that their expectations were too ambitious. In short, endless excuses to cover up the fact that Final Fantasy
FF16 was the blockbuster of JRPGs, and it couldn't even break 5 million. That's really bad. It's so bad. Whereas the Pixel remasters sold 6 million. Square just announced that. If a modern game gets outsold by remasters of previous versions of that game from like decades ago, that's a bad sign. That's a really bad sign. Imagine that happening with like GTA or something. Sorry, it's really bad. FF16 should have put FF back on the map, and it should have sold a lot more. It should have sold like triple, but it wasn't great. As Clive would say, fuck.
In short, endless excuses to cover up the fact that Final Fantasy hasn't been Final Fantasy for over 2 decades. It's been a train derailing in slow motion, and we seem to be the only passengers who knew what the hell was happening. We knew we were going into the ditch, or we were already there, while everyone else was saying, no, we're still heading somewhere meaningful. And actually, even if we have left the rails, it's better flying through the air in slow motion. Some fans tell me they're perfectly happy with what Square Enix are doing. They're enjoying the new games.
I'll tell you what, even though the segue writing is so unbelievably stupid, I still enjoyed it on stream, because it was fun to be Tifa in a bikini and just absolutely destroy this entire area. Look, was it good? Probably not, but I had fun doing it.
They're enjoying the new games. Great. I'd actually encourage you to keep being vocal about your love for the games. At the end of the day, it's sales figures that will dictate which voice Square Enix listens to. And as a fellow consumer, you will not stop me from voicing my opinion. We want Final Fantasy to be a mark of quality again. When I turn on a new game, I don't want to be thinking, well, what parts will I have to stomach? Will it be the gameplay this time? Will it be the world too? It's usually the story and characters that suffer as of late. We know that. But what else is going to be subpar?
It's sad, isn't it, that, like, back in the day, you could buy a Final Fantasy completely blind, knowing nothing about it, and you still knew that you were getting one of the best games in the world. These days, you have to do, like, hours of research just to find out if it is what it says on the box. Yes, I am talking about 7 Remake. It's tragic.
Characters that suffer as of late, we know that. But what else is going to be subpar? The great tragedy is, when I'm discussing games in public, I don't even say I'm a Final Fantasy fan, or ever was one, because when people ask what kind of games you like, how can you convey in a simple sentence that you're a fan of this Final Fantasy, and not this?
E33 makes that possible now, thankfully. What can that do for you?
Which has commanded the last 2 decades, by the way.
The fact that Final Fantasy has been bad longer than it's been good is really sad. Oh god.
How can it be that random work colleagues are telling me to play Expedition 33? Simply for the fact they know I'm a gamer, while over the last 20 years, not one single person has ever recommended a Final Fantasy game to me.
That's so tragic, man. It's true, no one tells anyone to rush out and play FF16, or 15, or 13, or 12, or 10-2. I got a mate who, he works like high-vis work and stuff. I think he was out with like a tree cutter once, some guy in his 40s. He's like, oh yeah, you know, what's your favorite game? And the guy's like, oh, Final Fantasy 7. And he's talking about the 97 version.
How long have you been smoking for?
48 years.
And how old are you?
52.
You gotta fucking die of lung cancer, mate.
Like, normal people played the golden age of Final Fantasy, and they don't play the new ones.
Yet I remember in the wake of Final Fantasy VII, all manner of people and personalities knew what Final Fantasy was.
Yeah.
So that's why we voice our criticisms. Square Enix might hear us, they might pay attention, or maybe they'll pay more attention to the happy fans. Either way, let's be honest about our feelings. The only thing that tries to silence...
If Square wants to make good money again, they need to make what the OG fans want. Don't worry about the modern fans. The only thing that's important to them is call it Final Fantasy. You call it that, and they'll buy the game. They might complain that it's not turn-based anymore, but they'll still buy it. They'll buy it on console, and then they'll buy it on PC. And if you do that, not only will it sell more because the OG fans are buying it and the modern fans are buying it, but then outsiders will then buy it too. Like, the average gamer will buy it too, because the average gamer, the games they tend to play and buy and get interested in are the ones that are doing very well within their own fandom. Like, when you see a fandom where it's just split and they're just warring over the game, it's not a good sign. Average gamers buy games based on word of mouth. If everyone is fucking telling you to buy it, then Vegas odds it's a good game. Notice, like, Rebirth fans, all they can do is point to some 90, like, Metacritic thing. It's like, yeah, well, it doesn't seem to be selling it. No one cares what reviewers think. And even, like, a high player score doesn't really convince people either if no one is just telling you that you gotta play this fucking game. You know, I would even say that, like, look, I can't prove it, but I don't believe the 90 on Metacritic for Rebirth. I just don't believe it, you know? I don't think that 9 out of 10 people who played that game loved it or thought it was a 9 out of 10. I think it's bullshit. Can I prove it? No. Also, Earth is flat. Your dad gets his recommendations from guys at the gym. If FF was mainstream, he'd have an interest. Yeah, no, sounds like a base dad. E33 fans are getting in trouble because they're playing that music too often at work. You think I'm in the vast minority? Here's how I know I'm not. Because Rebirth didn't sell well. So maybe it's one of those things where the few people who buyed it enjoyed it. They were already on board for the multiverse madness and the cringe. If I was in the minority, these games would sell well and everyone would be downvoting my videos. But you know what? They can't. The worst they've ever been able to ratio any of my FF7 videos is like 90%. As in 90% likes. If I'm in the minority, how can the majority agrees with those videos? And this isn't like a Reddit subreddit, or this isn't like some private FF Discord. YouTube, it's Instagram, it's out in the open. Anyone can watch it, anyone can comment on it.
Fans. Either way, let's be honest about our feelings. The only thing that tries to silence our voices is an insecure fan base. And I know all these fans and creators who don't like me have to agree with me, because they've all been a victim of it in some way. Some Final Fantasy fan somewhere has tried to shut you up because you didn't tick all the boxes, because you didn't at all times contribute towards creating the ultimate hive mind voice. And that's why I think it's more important than ever to acknowledge creators like Sebie and to say,
oh god, this woman singing clip. Just look at that face. Does that look like the face of a satisfied fan?
good on you for helping to serve us something different, for speaking your feelings. The toxic fans will remain deeply disturbed by the fact that you're a fan of the original games. If you hated Final Fantasy content full stop, things would be so much more convenient for them. Maybe after all of this, those fans will realize they no longer hold all the cards. They didn't understand, didn't appreciate the power they had before it was taken from them. They even tried to silence the small voices. Now let's see them put a lid on this box. Maybe now they'll stop throwing insults around. Maybe they'll stop obsessing over money and clicks they think we get for speaking honestly. You see, I'm a Final Fantasy YouTube creator. Call me obsessed, call me a grifter, but I'm not sure if you've ever noticed, I'm entirely detached from the Square Enix machine. From Square Enix social media relationships, from meet and greets, conventions, the blessing and curse of Square Enix opportunities.
It's weird that they would call him and me grifters, and then they love YouTubers who are getting sponsored, free stuff, event invites, meet the devs and whatever. I don't even care if you do that. If you like the games and you get that on top of that, like, good, lucky. But it makes no sense to call a guy like me or Orion a grifter. None.
Meet and greets, conventions, the blessing and curse of Square Enix opportunities, from game codes and freebies, from VIP invitations and collaborations with big names. Instead, I'm attached to my one simple message, that the Golden Age games were so impactful to me, and the modern games often so utterly unremarkable, and I'm willing to keep talking about that for as fun as it remains. And now you know that no matter what I said, or what way I said it, I meant every word, because I'm in it for the love of the game, my favourite game. I've used my voice, however small it was. I'm just glad, at last, so many more people will have a voice in all this.
You know what, Sebie? You alright.
And Orion,
You alright.
appreciate it. I'm honestly flattered that anyone has made a video about me and how, in whatever way, I affected the conversation. Please like and subscribe to Orion85's channel, and it tells you how many people are truly dissatisfied with FF7 Rebirth. He's got nearly 4,000 subscribers, which is not the biggest YouTuber in the world, but like his FF7 Rebirth Multiverse of Meh video, that has like 100,000 100,000 views. That's a long video. It's like an hour. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get someone to click on an hour-long video? Orion has been part of the old guard, and he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. Huge bloody respect here. And you know what? I even said hello in the comments myself, and I said, look, thanks for the feature, man. Great video. I never expected my FF7 remake critiques to go this far, but I'm glad I did. You know, this conversation needs to happen. For years, it was dominated by gaslighters and bullies, and they don't control the discussion anymore. Poor sales of Rebirth show that they are not the majority. They want you to think they are. And it's true. You know what, Orion? You all right. I think the reason they want to shut down criticism is because, let's be completely honest, no one wanted this. When it came to like remaking FF7, they wanted either it to be remade either Resident Evil 1 style or Resident Evil 2 style. No one wanted this split into 3 parts, multiverse, compilation, fan fiction, 3-minute Disney numbers, Red 13, uwu furry voice, you know, censored, Dine, weak Sid Highwind, Schrodinger's Eris. No one wanted this. It's just true. A few, I think, were confronted with the horrifying reality that this is the only FF7 remake they were ever going to get, and they wanted it for so long, they wanted so desperately to enjoy it that they just hunkered down. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna try and enjoy this. The problem is that self-gaslight only works if everyone else plays along. So when someone else shows up and says, no, this is shit, they have to silence that voice because it makes it impossible for them to lie to themselves. And the ones who do enjoy it for what it is, probably Kingdom Hearts fans. Thank you for enjoying the YouTube video, guys. Please chuck a follow and a like to Orion85. Check out his Multiverse of Met video. I will see you later. Hooah! Oh, and if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan who caught a stray, I'm sorry.
You all right?
All right, okay, get out of here. Get out of here.